There's a dog yipping hour after hour after hour outside of my window, 20 floors below where I live, but sounds like it's right outside my window. Hopefully you can't hear it. I think my microphone does a fair job at noise cancellation. Anyway, hello and welcome to the Philippines. I'm using my Insta 360 times 3 camera here. So it's a 360-degree camera. Some of you like that, some of you don't. You're able to move if you're watching on a smartphone, you can just turn your phone around. If you want to see the sky, face your phone to the sky. If you want to see the ground, to the ground, left and right, and you will get a different view. If you're on a tablet or computer, uh, you can use the touch screen if you have a touch screen to move it around. You might be able to zoom in and out. Up in the upper left hand corner, there's a little icon, and you can use that to move the video around as well. You can look backwards, forwards, or to either side as this video goes on. Anyway, I'm going to point out a few things. As I'm editing this video, I'm headed from the uptown area of Cebu City over to Mandaue City, and I'm taking my ASUS laptop over there. I've had some issues with it, and they have ordered a new keyboard for me. I don't know, a year ago or so. Had a big storm. Some water came leaking through the ceiling and hit some stuff on a shelf down on my keyboard, and the top row of my keys, most of those keys did not work. I was using an external keyboard, and I just really got tired of using that external keyboard, USB keyboard. So anyway, you can, as I point things out, I'm going to point them out left or right as I'm going forward. So if you have the video turned a different direction because you want to look at something else, keep that in mind. I have a couple of news items I'll cover along the way as well. The first item is about travel to the Philippines for international travelers. At the present time, I was hoping I would hear some changes here, but at the present time, unvaccinated still are required to do a negative antigen test before flying. And what I suggest, you can get it done here too, but then you risk the chance of getting a false positive and being required to do, I think, a 5-day quarantine, something like that. I would suggest you get it done before you leave. Hopefully, in the very near future, we will see that change where there are no restrictions. I'll talk a little more about that a little bit later. I get lots of comments and emails every day, and some of those are very revealing about people letting me know they've traveled all, from the U.S. to Korea or Japan and into the Philippines, and because of the airline they were traveling on, they were never required to wear a face mask. Now, I believe some of the Philippine airlines still require face masks, is what I've been told. So you can make those choices based on that if you want. I have traveled a number of places to a couple different islands here in the Philippines. I've got friends and acquaintances who have traveled to many different parts of the Philippines as well, and it seems to be very, very rare that someone has asked for a vaccine card, and that and or masks, very rare. Legally right now, masks are only required in medical facilities and on public transportation, although I think about half the people, depends on where you're at, about half the people do not wear the masks on public transportation, I believe. That is my observation, watching people in jeepneys, on buses, and on ferries. We are continuing, although you can see a little bit of blue sky above on this particular day, but mostly cloudy. And I would say for about the last 4 months, and it's March now. So starting last December or even November, we've had unusual number of cloudy days and cooler days, which is welcome, and many days where it'll rain either during the day or during the evening. Now that cooler days are nice, but at the same time, if you're a tourist or you want to travel someplace, um, not being sure what the weather's going to be um, can put a ding in your plans, in your travel plans. Although travel doesn't stop, ferries might stop. The Coast Guard might shut down the ferries if the winds are high, the waves are high, certain times. But otherwise, life goes on. Rain doesn't stop most events, but if you want to go to a beach or go scuba diving, snorkeling, the rain and washing the dirt down into the sea, it's not as nice an experience when there's a storm about. The weather forecast that I've been watching says that we're going to have a relatively better March, less rain, and hopefully 2019 was a drought year here. Some of the wells running dry. Hopefully, all this rain has helped replenish some of those shallow wells. Now, a little bit about safety in the Philippines. Something that's gotten some international coverage in the last couple of days is there was a governor over on Negros Island. Him and I think 8 or 9 other people were killed. Several gunmen attacked them, killed them, and they have captured, I think, 4 or 5 of those people. And names are being named. Who was behind it? Who paid these guys? There are guns for hire here, and apparently it doesn't cost that much to get somebody knocked off. And political violence is pretty common. Now, the good news is that it's rarely, very rare, that it involves a foreigner. Good reason not to make any mistakes here, because if you make enemies here, if you make an enemy, you've got a lot of times the enemy and their friend, the friends and family of that person is also your enemy. You don't need that kind of problem. I think a number of years ago, not this recent election, but the election before that, I had read there was only 32 election-related killings in the Philippines, and they thought that was pretty moderate. That was doing pretty good. Just to give you an idea, because you've got an ambulance there. Speaking of, anyway, you've got a different culture here, and I've been studying more and more about the history of the Philippines, and you've got various levels. You've got families, and that are very loyal to each other. You've got clans, a little bigger circle of family and friends, and you've got tribes, and a larger group that kind of controls an area. And when you have somebody trying to come in, an outsider who hasn't been involved in the control of the politics in an area, well, that gets real personal real fast. Some areas, regions, provinces are much more prone to that type of thing than others, of course. Now, I've been in the Philippines for 7 years. I walk a lot, and I've walked even at night in areas I would never think of walking in those kind of areas in a city in the USA or probably other parts of the world. But haven't really had any issues. I've been pickpocketed a couple times when I've gotten right in the middle of huge crowds at another ambulance, like Sinulog Festival, and you're just in a crushing crowd. I understand how people get killed in crowds. You can't move, and you come out of that crowd and you don't have a wallet and or cell phone. There was a New Zealander, fairly young guy, who was shot recently, made the news, and I mentioned it in a video. And he resisted the holdup, the theft, and he tried to disarmed the guy, I guess, tried to push the gun aside, and anyway, in the process, he was shot and killed. And occasionally, usually when you read about a foreigner getting killed, whether it's a Westerner or another Asian, a Japanese, a Korean guy was shot recently on a street in, like, broad daylight here in Cebu, it's when they resist. So good advice is to carry an extra wallet, a little cash to make that person happy. Give them that, be on your way. Live to see another day. Now we're headed over on the main highway. We just passed a couple of condominiums, Persimmon condominiums where I've lived back there a bit. If you take a right here, it would take you to SM Mall. I believe that's, yeah, this corner. I've got over 1,000 videos up. I've been taking videos for about 6 years, and real estate agents would grab me in the mall and say, come and see my condominium. I would take videos, put them up, so you can view many videos of condominiums and subdivisions, see what they look like inside. Sometimes I discuss prices and rentals. I do cost of living videos, travel videos, just a ton of other videos as well, reviews of some hotels and resorts. This is kind of a main highway here, and it goes through more of a retail commercial area to more of a warehouse area down here for a couple of kilometers. And if you head, I'll point it out as we get down here later. Now, the ASUS service center, nice thing about the larger cities is they have service centers. I've used the Acer service center here, not very far from Ayala, and the ASUS is over by J Center Mall on a side street. And you know, if you were out of town, if you're living out in the country, the province, the smaller towns, of course you're going to have to bring your units into the bigger city or ship them off. I think my repair, having them check it out, and buying the keyboard, having it installed and checked out, it cost me under 5,000 pesos, under 100 US dollars. You've also got a number of building supply places along these major roads, downtown area, uptown area. You've got hotels, condominiums, business parks. Very few traffic signals, and it works here. It works here. People coming off side streets, they stick their nose out, traffic will stop for a while, allow people to come that direction. There's a little road rage, but nothing like you would see in, for instance, many of the U.S. states. And we take sharing the road, sharing the lanes literally, very literally here. Many people do not have driver's licenses, I've been told, and or registration on their vehicles. A friend of mine told me, a person that drives to work all the time, that they know no license, no driver's license, and therefore even the people with licenses probably have had little or no training, driver's training. Like in the U.S., it's pretty much mandatory to get a license. You've got to go through a certain amount of training. New hardware store just off here to the right. I think it's called Atlantic Building Supply, kind of like a Home Depot, something like that. We do have a few hardware stores like that, building supply places. You might call them big box type stores here. Now, I've had mixed reviews on these 360 videos. Some people say the video is high quality, and other people say it's not such high quality. And it might be the settings that I use. I have uploaded the latest software to my camera recently. This is an older video actually. Hopefully that will help. It might be the software and the hardware on the device you're watching it on. If you don't have adequate RAM to handle this much data, imagine you're not just having data one direction. You've got 360 degrees data, so that's That's a huge file that your device has to handle. Somebody mentioned that it seems like when I'm walking, it's a better video than when I'm on a motorbike, and that might be because you're going by so much more data and processing much more data in that same given time period, second or minute. So just a couple more notes about travel in the Philippines. If you are here or if you are planning to come here, um, me and my friends who have traveled to a number of different islands a number of times have our experience is that we are not asked for any documentation for vaccine cards, vaccination status. Very rare that that happens from all the emails and comments I get, but it can happen. It can happen, and or masks. Very few places where you're asked to wear masks. And when I went into the Pier 1, the terminal down there to get on a ferry here, what, a month or two ago, uh, they made you put a mask on to go in, but once inside, I think at least half the people had their masks off and or pulled down to their chin so they could breathe freely. And if you haven't seen the latest news on that, you know, mainstream media for some reason isn't reporting a lot of this big scientific news. There are like 78 studies about masks and washing hands and what effect all those things had. And I would suggest you check out Dr. John Campbell. He's a British doctor. He's got over, I think, over 2.5 million subscribers now. He has a lot of really good information he puts out about a lot of issues having to do with the last 3 years. And his thinking has evolved, and he talks about the U.S., about Europe issues, some of the data, some of the science, and there's some interesting science about masks. You know, I've worked in industries where around chemicals and stuff, and certain types of masks. Masks are designed to have specific purposes, and if you're going to wear a mask, you should do some very good research and wear the proper mask. Hobble driver I asked him the other day, why are you wearing a mask? And he said, yeah, because of the dust. Well, fine, that might help for the dust, but he wasn't really wearing the best mask. He was wearing the cheapest mask he could buy, not the best mask he could use for that purpose. Anyway, just to the left there is San Miguel, everybody's favorite. Well, not everybody's. San Miguel Brewery, and their Pilsen beer, I think, is pretty good beer, better than many U.S. beers, in my opinion. They had a number of their windows knocked out of their building during Typhoon Odette over a year ago, and some of them are still knocked out there. Huge place. Just talk about cost of living. When I came here in 2015, for a number of years, even down on Mango Avenue with entertainment, a beer cost 40 pesos, about 80 US cents. And for a number of years, and now it's, I think, averages closer to 80 pesos, 75, 80, 85. If you get into the mall, like the social bar, 110 pesos. You know, a couple bucks for a beer, much less expensive than most U.S. areas and probably European areas. Not sure about Japan and other Asian countries. You can buy in many of the grocery stores. You can buy many imported type beers, Heineken and Japanese beers, Chinese beers, Tsingtao, which isn't a bad beer. Friend of mine likes Thai beer. You can buy that here. Grain Belt. I bought one of those a while back. Man, that was bad. I didn't realize I had not drank it in the U.S. since I was a kid, I think, or out of college. And I prefer like a Michelob Amber Bock is what I would drink when I would drink a little bit in the U.S. A lot of foreigners drink the San Miguel Light here, and man, to me that has absolutely no taste at all, like almost like drinking water. And then there are others that like the Red Horse. Instead of 5 or 6%, I think, what is it, 7 or 8%, something like that. Too strong for me. I don't like that strong alcohol taste myself. Now, just a point on cost of living here too. You know, we have inflation, 9, 10%, whatever. You know, it's really personal, depending upon your personal choices. I've seen some major increases in imported foods that I like, so I've changed my shopping a little bit, found new sources, found alternatives to some of my items I would prefer to have. And, you know, you make those choices. But the big question is, how about where you're living now? Can you afford to continue living where you're at? I know that I think the average price around the USA, the various cities, just crazy. The price of rent, the inflation, the interest rates, and the price to buy a new home, food and gasoline costs. So, you know, it's all relative to a degree. And my hobble driver is asking that guy right there is a traffic enforcer. He said they're really strict over here with their traffic laws, and he asked him if it was okay for him to go ahead and make that U-turn there, which it was. I've done cost of living videos, and I'll put a link to one of those at the end of this video as well. You know, you can find, even in the city, you can find a cheaper place to live, but it's not going to be online. You got to talk to the Filipinos, network with them, walk down streets to find different areas you think you might want to live in. They'll have signs on walls and on telephone poles. It's best to get a Filipino to help you to call and check out the place, I think, probably. We had to make a U-turn because at this corner we're going to come up to, if we would have taken a left, if we would have taken it's illegal to make a U-turn there, put it that way. We could have made a left turn with a left turn signal, but we couldn't make a U-turn. A taxi driver I used one day did make the U-turn, but anyway, so we went down, way down, did a U-turn where we were allowed to do a U-turn, and we're coming back to that service center up here. So there are choices, but you might want to make that choice before you get to a point where those options become more and more limited. You know, the Philippines is one of the easiest countries in the world to come into and get a tourist visa and keep renewing that tourist visa for up to 3 years before you're required to leave, and then you can come back and start all over again. You're hoping that they will just continue to extend that long term, or you can get other types of visas that are available: retirement visas, marriage visas, business visas, work visas. And I use JRC Visa Consultancy and Immigration Services. I've done a number of interviews with him, and I just let him take care of all I've got better things to do rather than going down and sitting and waiting. Anyway, we're going to turn right down this street. This little side street is where the ASUS Service Center is, and I was real happy with their work there. They also do Lexmark, I think, some printer business in there. Anyway, that's it for now. Looking forward to your comments. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. Take care.